Hello, everyone, and welcome back to One Soccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming. I'm joined by my colleague, Alex Gonge-Ruzic, and today we will sit down and discuss who the MVP candidates are for every Canadian Premier League club. And we are going to start with the most interesting one for me, and that is Valour FC. So, Alex, who are the three candidates for you?
Yeah, I think Valor's the one where they've got the most options, and it just shows how solid they've been. It feels like the results haven't necessarily reflected the quality of performances and how they've played, and it shows that with Pacific Niangabir, of course, we've seen the runs, the dribbles, the goals, the assists. You got Diego Gutierrez, who's was player of the month back early in the season. He's had some man of the match performances, been dominant in midfield. And then you have Ryan Yesley, who's just quietly been arguably the best goalkeeper in the league. So three very good options there.
Yeah, the thing that I want to put my hand up and say, I was wrong is because at the beginning of the season, I remember telling you I was very underwhelmed with what Valor was going to do this season. I didn't know how the pieces were going to work, but Dos Santos got this team playing relatively good. I think that they will have a good push for the playoffs, and these three are a huge reason why. Nyongabir has been just a blessing for this league. I love his pace, his creativity, the ability to take on defenders 1v1. He's a big reason why they found a lot of success. Gutierrez has just taken his game to a whole different level. The amount of touches he gets on the ball every single game. He's a complete midfield package. And Yesley's one of those quiet keepers. I know last season you told me that you were excited to see when he got the ropes because you thought he was going to have a big future. And all three have been incredible. For me, if I was going to pick one, I do think I would go Gutierrez just because I think despite how flashy and fun Young Beer is to watch, I think Gutierrez just holds that midfield together and he's just such an important piece where if you pluck him out, I don't know how you'd replace him.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd be inclined to agree. I think someone with Nyanga Beer is going to get a lot of attention and votes, especially if he starts scoring. And I think that will change the debate a bit. Just because one thing that's held Valor back is that they've had a lot of 1-1s and 0-0s and games where they want a player to break through. So because of that, I think Nyanga Beer, if we're looking at who has a better chance over the course of the season, I think naturally that will evolve. But if we're looking at Valor's true MVP, I think it has to be Gutierrez, just the way he's stepped up and controlled and dominated the midfield. He does everything. He defends, he tackles, he's a leader, he scores, he gets assists, he passes. Like he just does. For a Valor team that dominates a lot of their games in midfield, he's been the dominant force. So I think he is the MVP. And look, for Ryan Yesley, I think he'll be someone where if I was voting tomorrow, I'd pick him to win the goalkeeper of the year. And if he keeps it up, he probably does. So I think it's something where his accolades will come elsewhere. So it comes down to Gutierrez versus Nyangabir. I'd pick Gutierrez, but we'll see what happens if Nyangabir can all of a sudden get 5-10 goals, then maybe it's a different discussion.
Yeah, it's a fair debate right now, and it shows that these two players will be key for Valor if they're going to go on a playoff push. But the next debate I'm very excited about, and that is Pacific FC, because this side is flying right now. They're playing so well. I don't think you can debate that there's a side that's even really near them right now. And a lot of that is because of depth and obviously key pieces stepping up. And these two players are key pieces that have really shown a lot of quality this season. That is Saloof and Young. And for me, especially Sean Young, I'm curious to see what you have to say about him because the ability for him to, like, I know I talked to you a little off screen about it, to take that step up from that kind of conservative 6 up into an aggressive 8 can turn into a 10. He looks so good on the ball and he's got interest already from Major League Soccer. I would expect him to probably take that next step up. Maybe some clubs in England, Belgium, Netherlands will come calling, but he's been that good. But I know that you like what Saloof has bring because he's got a lot of creativity. So where are you at with that debate right now?
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of like a school of thought thing because I think Saloof, what's been fantastic, like fascinating about him is that he just can take over games for 5-10 minutes and it's breathtaking. Like think of Vancouver FC, comes off the bench, it's a close game and he just took it over, like 10 minute span, goal, assist, won a penalty, and you're like, whoa, like you're almost like you're taken aback. And there's been a few moments like that, like against Ottawa on the road, boom, he took over the game, was dominant. They win 4-1, and there's just several instances, even recently when they beat. I want to say it was York or no, it was Valor 1-0, and it was Pacific was struggling. It was a close game. Saloof comes off the bench, moment of magic, assist, win, and I think he just has this ability to win games in an instant, but Sean Young is a guy who's been a bit more consistent across games. He'll start, he'll be dominant from minute 1 to minute 90. It won't be in sometimes as obvious ways as a Saloof, but he'll be just controlling the midfield. Then he'll pop up with a goal or an assist in a clutch moment. So because of that, and I think the consistency, I'd be leaning more for Young. But I think someone where Saloof, if he continues to have moments like this, it's going to be very hard to ignore him, because guys who come off and win games, can win games from the bench, can win games from the start. Look, the MVP, most valuable player, sometimes it's an award where you kind of get caught up in who's the best player. But sometimes if you're putting up points on the board, and Saloof's helped Pacific do that, that's pretty valuable to me.
I think it's funny that we just had two examples of like the flashy player like Saloof and Young Beer, who will get a little bit more attention because you can't not watch them. They catch your eye. But a lot of the times midfielders, you don't see what they do off the ball. And that's exactly where Sean Young and Gutierrez come into play. So I would agree with you with Young, but I do like what Saloof has brought to the side, and the fact that, like I said, there's so much depth to this team. He has to put in a shift pretty much every single time to try to get into this side, because it is so difficult to do so. But moving on to maybe a little, not really a debate, because I don't think there is one there. Cavalry, Ali Musi. I think MVP, when we talk about that, not just about the club, but the whole league, he comes to mind. He's taken a massive step up from last season, even though he was good last season. What do you think it has been about his game that he's in this debate for maybe MVP of the league?
For me, it's just the consistency. And I think that's why, if we're having a debate now, who are the top 3 candidates, he's in the top 3. For me, no doubt, in across CPL, because he's just been so consistently dominant. And that's hard for attacking players. Again, we talk about Saloof, someone, or Nyongabir. They've had these flashes. It's these moments where for 5-10 minutes, they take over. Musi's just been taking over every game, maybe except 1 or 2 where he'd want back, which for a wide attacking player, you take that. That's consistency you don't often see from creative players of his ilk. And what I love about watching Musi is that he'll do it over the course of the game. He'll get a couple of dangerous shots. He'll get a couple key passes, get a couple dribbles. And that's like a given. That's not him having a hot or her cold day. And I think that's where he's grown a lot. Because last year for Cavalry, he did run a bit hot, a bit cold at times, where he'd take over and be unplayable for moments, and then there'd be moments where you'd want a bit more. And I think the fact that he's cleaned that up is absolutely why he's been in this MVP race, because Cavalry struggled to win games. He's not been a reason for that. He's been someone where every week in, week out, he's consistently providing the chances, providing the opportunities for them to score goals. Really what's hurt them this year is that defensively they've taken a bit of a step back, and that's why they've been drawing and so many games compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, Ali Musi makes the players around him better. That is what someone who should be in the MVP conversation should do. And Bevan has been scoring goals for fun, and a lot of that is because Ali Musi just puts the ball on a platter for him. He's a good finisher as well, and I wanted to show a little mention because he is leading the Canadian Premier League in goals, but I don't think if Ali Musi's in that side, then Bevan is maybe doing that. But regardless, he's an incredible talent. I can't wait to see how he finishes off the season. But now we're going to move on to the new boys on the block, Vancouver FC. Very young squad. There were some big stars that were added, but we're going to go to one of the former rival players in Callum Irving, because Alex, I know how much you rate this keeper and how impressed you've been. And since it's a young team, a lot of the times that these games can maybe get carried away and out of hand, if not for Irving.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of been arguably the best goalkeeper in the league. Of course, someone like Yesley, like I mentioned earlier, I'd vote Yesley for goalkeeper of the year just in terms of the results he's brought to Valour. But really, if someone like Irving is on any other team, you'd be talking about him as the goalkeeper there, and it shows that he's kept a lot of games for Vancouver FC way more respectable than they could have been. He's helped a young defense grow a lot, and we've seen that at the beginning of the year they started well, then they had that patch where they're allowing a lot of goals, and all of a sudden they're getting clean sheets. Irving's done a big job in terms of building up those defenders' confidence, working with them, being just a leader back there. And the fact that he's made so many huge saves, like it feels like he's genuinely saved 5, 6, 7, 8 goals for Vancouver against, which, considering they already have conceded the most goals, has been valuable, right? It's valuable. And the fact they're even still in the race, they're not sitting there way far behind everyone else. It shows how big of an impact Irving has had. And he's genuinely someone where, yeah, maybe right now it's hard to give an MVP award to someone on a last place team, but say if Vancouver strings together a couple wins and do push to the playoffs, he's absolutely someone you'd have to look at.
Yeah, and for a young team, like we said, it's important to know that, when things don't go your well, when you're not playing that good, or you just don't have the experience to get out of those situations, that you have a keeper back there that has your back. And I think a lot of these young players would go and give Irving a little pat on the back, being like, thank you, because that was on me. I'm learning. I'm going to get better, and he's a good leader, like we talked about. So incredible pick. I 100% agree. But now on to Forge, a club that a lot of people at the beginning of the season, including I believe both you and I, put as the winners. We thought they were going to win at least the league, because they just show that they can. They have that talent, and they only added one new player really this season, Manjakar James. It was a big ad. We know his experience. He's such an incredible talent, Canadian international, and he's the player that has kind of stood out to us. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and I guess it's both a reflection of his quality, but also maybe a reflection of what's going on at Forge, that for all the attacking midfield talent they have, it's kind of been a defender that's kind of stood out. And to be fair, you can give a very good honorable mention to Tristan Henry, who I think is having his best season in a Forge shirt. But I just think the way James has been pretty much the outfield minutes leader, which is a big sign of confidence from Bobby Smirniotis, who loves to rotate. He's really had some dominant performances. James has helped keep Forge from going a bit even deeper than they have in these struggles, especially while they're struggling to score. A guy like James at the back is helping them keep the ship steady, helping them play out the back. Really, what's held Forge back is the offense, and if they can figure out the offense, a guy like James, he'll unfortunately maybe blend into the background a bit more, but I think how good he's been at the start can't be ignored.
No, and when they go later in the season, as Forge do, they're going to turn the gears a little bit, and having a defender like that can help keep the ball out of the back of the net, because Borges, Campbell, Macias, these guys will start finding a groove, and when James can continue to play the way that he will, it will definitely help Forge late in the season, because we know they can find a way to win in playoffs. But the next player I'm very excited to talk about on York United, they had a very interesting start to the season. They didn't look very good, and all of a sudden they went on a tear, and a big reason for that inconsistency was the injuries. But who stepped up? Paris G. Paris G is featured as a right back, a left back, a center back, a CDM. Alex, I know he's impressed you. Where do you think he was most important for York so far this season, and why do you think he is deserving of this MVP talk?
I think it has to have been center back. Because look, he's a fullback. He's a very good fullback. Can get forward. His delivery is among the best in the CPL that I've seen, just in terms of the way he can wrap his foot around these balls and put them into the box for his strikers. So the fact that he's stepped in at center back, because he's not a big guy either. He's 5'10", 5'11". He's not the most physical guy either, but he's just such a cerebral player, and the fact he stepped in and been so good on the ball as he is, but also not looked out of place defensively for the most part. He's getting stuck in, he's winning his duels, has been immense for York, because York has so much offensive talent. They have a lot of good midfield options. They're already a bit light heading into the season on the center backs, and the fact that Roger Thompson, as we've come to get used to, has battled injuries and knocks. Even Tasmo Dakudas, who we thought would be more regular, has also battled knocks. It's completely wiped out the center back depth. So the fact that G's proven that he can be a credible option there, it's open up Max Ferrari to playing right back, a role he looks great in. It's just helped York find a bit of a groove, and I think it's no coincidence that ever since Martin Nash tried G as an emergency center back, that's kind of where their hot streak started, where they pushed up into the top 3 of the league.
Absolutely, and it just speaks to his incredible footballing IQ to be able to play these different positions, because it's difficult just to get thrown in there. You're used to playing one way, and all of a sudden you have to completely shift the way you play. Like you said, he likes getting up. He's got a good delivery, but when he's stuck at center back, he's got a completely different number of responsibilities he's got to keep into play, and I've really liked the way that his game has grown, and I'm excited to see how he finishes up this season. But going on to another club who not really had the best of starts and really they've recovered a little bit, and I'm hoping at some point they will, because we know how good they are. That's Atletico Ottawa and Ollie Bassett. I mean, there's no other option really to talk about Ollie Bassett. He has been that good. It's a big surprise, I think, that Atletico Ottawa are sitting where they are, but if not for Ollie Bassett, it could be a lot worse, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the defending MVP, so he's kind of always the favorite heading into the new season, right? Is always the defending MVP and players MVP, right? He was voted as well by the media and his peers for the award. He's continued to play at a top level, and really what's hurt him, I suppose, in this debate is just Ottawa hasn't been at the level, but he certainly has. Despite playing in midfield, he still continues to score open play goals too, right? Like for a midfielder last year, there was a lot of debate. Did he score a few penalties? Well, he's been scoring a lot in open play this year. He's just been dominating games with his passing and just his overall offensive impact. And I think it's going to be key now, especially that Ottawa. What was hurting them was that they were missing Nate Ingham, and they also had some new faces at the back. they've quietly stabilized lately. People might not realize, but they're actually have the best XG against in the league now, and that's important to note because last year when Ottawa was very good defensively, they kind of actually relied a lot on Ingham, and now they've built a system where Ingham, now that he's back from the injury, won't actually have as much to do, and that will mean the defense will stabilize. All of a sudden, Bassett's contributions, because Bassett, he's one of those guys. He'll score clutch goals. He'll score the one goal in a 1-0 game. He'll score the second goal in a 2-1 win. And unfortunately for Ottawa, they've gotten into too many games. We've seen it lately against Forge where it's 3-2, 4-3. That's not Ottawa. And I think if they get back to that Atletico DNA, Bassett will really start to shine because he has shown, but it's just kind of been lost in Ottawa being a bit sloppy defensively.
I definitely agree because I think Bassett can be a moments player. Like you said, he can wait and take that moment. And if, like you said, if Ottawa can find a way to like play that normal kind of way, keep it tight, whether it's 1-1, 0-0, Bassett can go in, he can peg out that pass, he can take a hit from distance, he can come up, he's excellent at set pieces. We know that he's just that engine that keeps his team going. And if Ottawa are going to turn their season around a little bit, like you said, they already are, but we expect them to probably be in the top 3. They're going to have to, we're definitely relying on him to turn that around. But the last club we are going to take a look at, and the last player who I am very excited to talk about is Halifax. It's Aiden Daniels. Alex, you and I have spoke with him. We talked about, leaving that lucky number 13 shirt to take on that number 10 kit, and he's definitely lived up to it. He's been so good this season. Halifax was another club similar to Valour at the beginning of the season where I was like, I just don't know how the pieces are going to come together. Who's going to be that guy? Morelli is out. That guy is Aiden Daniels.
100%. He's also one of the favorites. Again, if you're voting tomorrow, I mentioned Moosey in the top 3. I'd throw Daniels also in that top 3 if you're talking about right now. And it shows how good Daniels has been, that he can just take over games. And it's been huge for Halifax because he was doing it at the beginning of the year, but maybe it kind of got lost a bit. Halifax was figuring out a lot. They had these moments in games where they're defensively having lapses. They didn't quite get the formula offensively. I think it's no coincidence that as soon as now that Halifax is finding their feet, they're really starting to figure out the Patrice Geisar system. Daniels has been elevated even more within that. And what I love as well about Daniels is how he's responded to early adversity. He started the year so well, but then Halifax were kind of figuring things out. Daniels had a rough game. Geyser, as he does, he's a very fair coach. He benched Daniels, and it was a bit of a surprise because it was like, he's a great player. Why would you bench one of your best players? And Daniels came off the bench for 2 games. He responded well. He scored a huge goal away to Pacific to get a point off the current leaders. He stayed on the bench the next game despite that. Has started pretty much almost every game since and has hit another level since the benching. And I think anytime a player like that responds to adversity the way he has, it bodes well because now Halifax are rolling. They're really looking like a Patrice Geisar team, and if they keep doing that and Daniels is leading the way, this could be a very fun end of the season for him.
Yeah, talking with Daniels, I got the feeling that he's a very confident player. He's a player who believes in himself. It's why he wanted that kit number. It's why when Morelli was out, he's like, no problem. I'm here. I'm very excited to see how it's going to fit when Morelli comes back, because when you're a talented player like that and you get to play with another incredible former MVP player, it could be pretty intriguing. I think probably Morelli will take that cam role and Daniels could float around on the wings, but it should be a match that could help Halifax maybe go for a playoff push as well. But that is all the time we have for on this episode. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Let us know down below if you agree with our picks or if we missed anybody. And as always, if you did like it, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, friends.